Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get started with questions.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, it's Thad. How you doing?
Hey, Ted, how are you?
Good, good. Last year we talked about Daryl Williams as a guy who had played guard in Carolina, came to you guys, moved back to tackle, where he was more natural and had success there. And now, this year, obviously he's moving back to guard. And I think he's still, having a good amount of success. Can you talk about why or how that's gone about and what you see in him that's, made it work, having to make another position switch in his career?
Sure. Well, it helps that he's had some flexibility in the past, and he's played both spots. He's actually played on both sides. He's a smart guy. He's tough, dependable. We've worked him there in the past. Obviously, he was our tackle last year, but I think it's important as we get going at the start of the season, whether that be OTAs or training camp or early on in the season, just to kind of maneuver some guys around and figure out. It's hard to identify sometimes your five best, and there's moving parts of that happens. The more position flexibility that the players have on your roster, the easier it is that to do, and give him a lot of credit. He's a pro. He's been a really good asset for us.
And I know you guys talk about the position flexibility and how important it is, but just as a coach and having to work through lineup combinations and figure out that best five, how much do you appreciate when you have a guy who can make a move as seamlessly as he can?
Yeah, you appreciate those guys because, look, it's much like an outside receiver versus an inside receiver. I know it's the offensive line we're talking about, but it's a little bit of a different. Things happen a little quicker inside rather than outside. Usually you're focused on one guy, maybe one extra guy. Inside, there's a lot of stuff going on. The guys that can play multiple spots. And I think that goes to his intelligence too, because, obviously he knows what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, but it's a little bit different at guard inside there too. And he's a good communicator, true veteran.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dad.
Coach Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. How's it going?
Good, Mook. How are you?
I'm great, Coach. Yesterday's performance was something that reminded everyone how explosive this offense really could be. I love the split zone, and you were able to get outside in variations. Just care to talk about how you thought the run game complemented the passing attack yesterday, Coach.
Yeah, Mook, I think every week is such a different week. I don't know. I think our backs had 17 carries this week.
Right.
So we had some other people carry the ball for us. Emmanuel carried it. Little man carried it. Isaiah. Josh didn't have, he really didn't do too much in terms of carrying the ball. So again, each week's a little bit different. We had some plays out there that we thought were effective. And then there's, again, win or lose, you're always trying to figure out what you can do better. And there's some things that we left out there on the field. So that's what we do every week. Again, whether that's come out and try to run it 50 times or throw it or have some balance. I think that's what we do, starting when we get off the conference call here is we meet, we go through, we figure out what we think is the best way to play a team and attack a team. And then, that's kind of how we start out and try to adjust as it goes.
Speaking of attacking the team, how important was it to get Stephon going early and often? And how can you remain this explosive going forward, Coach?
Well, each week is a new week. You got to go out there and do your job and perform your 111th, as Sean talks about. Look, to get a guy a ball, like there's only really one play besides handing it off to a ball where where the ball is going to go. For the most part, is a screen. So there's not a lot of reads for the quarterback in the screen. You're getting the ball and you're throwing it to the assigned player that we're screening the ball to. Other than that, there's a lot of things that go on. We move Steph around quite a bit, I would say. But again, Josh's job is to throw it to the right person based on what the defense is doing and throw it to the open guy. So do we have plays where you make Steph the number one? Sure, we got a lot of them. But sometimes that doesn't always go the way you hope based on what you're getting. And at the end of the day, Josh has to throw it to the right guy. And if it's Steph, it's Steph. If it's E, it's E. If it's Dawson, it's Dawson. And if it's Cole, it's Cole. If it's the backs, you try to stay as flexible as you can in that regard.
Excellent job, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thanks, Mook.
Hey, Brian, Josh Reed here. How are you?
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Good.
Got the baby back there?
Yeah, little
All
guys
right.
running around
All
here.
right.
Sorry about that. The
No, that's good. That's great.
trying to juggle everything.
No, that's great.
The I on the outside, it probably doesn't look like a huge deal, but Davis Webb, it's only 4 plays, but I mean to finally be able to get him into a game,
Yeah.
and knowing how much that locker room appreciates him, and even the coaches.
Yep.
You know, how kind of rewarding was that for you to be able to get him out on the field?
Yeah, you guys know how I feel about Davis. Just tremendous respect for him as a man, and as a player. Very unselfish, great teammate. So it was really good. I was happy for him that he got to get in there and get his first action. Just a tremendous teammate.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Have a good week.
You too, Josh.
Hey, Brian Warrow, it's another bad hair day for me, so
Warrow.
Apologies.
You're staying off the camera.
Yeah. I'm down.
Thank
You
you.
don't
Appreciate
need to
that.
see my basement or my hair or whatever. So whatever.
Gotcha.
Just going back to Stefan, were we reminded about how valuable he is to this team and how much this offense seems to function more efficiently when he's involved?
Well, I'm sorry. I think you cut out. What was your question?
Going back to Stefan, were we
Yep.
reminded of how valuable he is to this offense and how it seems to function more efficiently when he's involved?
No, he's involved pretty much every play. It might not be getting the ball. Look, we'd love to give him the ball as many times as we can, but again, I've talked about that. But he's involved in a lot of things. Again, whether he has or he doesn't have it, whether it's helping other people get open based on the rotation of a safety or helping in the running game if they're going to play too high on him. He's a really good football player. More importantly, he's a really good person, and glad we have him.
And just to follow up on that, I know he does do so much. How important though are the times where he gets, he enjoys blocking and all this other stuff, but when you're him and he is unselfish, but when he gets that kind of production, how much of a reward is that for him?
Yeah, it's great. He's been a productive player since he's been in the league. We certainly try to get him the ball. He's had a lot of targets here the last 2 years he's been with us, and rightfully so. So when his number's called, that's the really good thing about Steph is when his number's called, he's ready to go out there and execute it. And he usually does. So he's a very unselfish player, he's an excellent leader. It's helpful when you have good guys like that on your team.
And I'm sorry, I just one
That's okay.
other follow-up just came to me. That cover of Stefan Diggs on Josh's back and the two guys smiling, I think it was an SI Kids thing of friendship. How much do you, I'm sure you saw it. And if you did, does that kind of sum up just what those two guys are like?
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to be around. They're both loose. I think it's important to let your players be their players. Don't try to put them into a square hole when they're not that. Let them be loose. Let them have some fun. Make sure we're trying to get the details that go along with what we need to do, and go out there and be you. And those two guys, they have good chemistry. I would say both on and off the field, but they do a good job of leading our offense, but also keeping it light. Fortunate to have both of them.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, Adam Benini, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I kind of have like a broken record kind of question.
Okay.
And if you want to go ahead and roll your eyes on camera, you can, because Vic does all the time, like on the air with me when I bring this
No,
up.
much respect, Adam.
So I want to get back to the running game.
Sure.
Everything. And maybe I'm more of a traditionalist, right? We all know what your bread and butter is as an offense. But if you're going to take the step of being a championship team, to what degree do you need a power running game or a running game? Like, that balance, right? Like yesterday, it was a very good day running the football. You had some creativity in there, got other guys involved. So I guess all of that rolled in. How much do you need that element and that balance to be an elite team and a championship team in the NFL?
Well, offensive football, Adam, is about execution. You get to play, you go out there, you execute it, whether it be run, pass, screen, whatever that may be. And again, we'll always try to do what we think we need to do for that week. I've been part of teams that, were really balanced and didn't win much, and part of teams that like to throw it a whole bunch and won, and part of teams that ran it a whole bunch and won or lost. I mean, again, each week, not to sound like a broken record, but it's such a 1 week league that we deal with every single week. And we're always going to try to do what we think we need to do to win that game. And you hope it works every time. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think the main thing is you're consistent with your approach. You come back in, you fix the things you need to fix, and you move on to the next week, win, lose, or draw. But in terms of, let's run it 40 times and run 2 back power, or let's do this. I mean, that's just not how our philosophy works here. And I can just speak on that.
So that's within, game to game. But I'm talking
Yeah.
about over the course of 17 and playoffs and whatever. Fair to say you've got to be able to do both in some way, shape, or form well?
I think it depends on the game. There's, again, each game is, I don't really get too far ahead of ourselves of, where we're going to be. I just focus on the game that you're playing, figure out, look, the strengths of the team you're playing against, the matchups you're playing against. Sometimes it's the conditions you're going against. Maybe one player suits your team a little bit better than the other player if you want to use him more. It's just so week to week. Again, you go through the history of the league, but teams change throughout the year. Some teams throw it all year and they get to the playoffs and they run it a bunch. It's your job is to try to figure out the best way to attack a team. And if that's run it a bunch or be balanced or throw it a bunch, I think that's all you can really do is stay focused on the team you're playing and take it 1 week at a time.
All right, Brian, thanks. I appreciate that.
You got it, Adam.
Hey, Brian, it's Kim Jones. Can you hear me?
I got you, Kim. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And I hope you are
Good.
too.
Thank
This
you.
is a theme that goes back to last year with me. Why does it seem like good things happen when Gabe Davis is involved?
Well, he's a good player. Again, we've talked about this before. There's 5 eligible guys. I think that Gabe is a very mature young player because it's hard in this league. You want to play a whole bunch and you always want to be out there and you want to produce and you should want to produce. You should want to play a lot as a competitor and to stay, mentally focused and not let yourself get too down if you're not playing as much as you want or, receiver's a hard position as it is because you don't have a lot of control. You can control getting open but other than that, it's, there's a lot of other things go into it in terms of when the ball is being thrown to you. This guy's focused. I think there's good veteran leadership in the room. And when his number's been called, he's made the play. We have a lot of confidence in him. I'm certainly glad we have him.
Would I be fair on Sunday if I say that you've said some of those same things to Gabe about, your opportunities will come, you're working hard. We love you even if you're not getting 17 targets a game.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
he's a very valuable member to our team. It's just, it's hard as a second year player or a rookie or third year if, you're not getting all the touches you want or things like that to stay into it. And he does. He's an excellent teammate. I think he's come in he was really smart when he came in. That's one of the reasons why we drafted him. He had a great, Zoom meeting with us, just very, very smart, picked up our stuff well. And again, he's one of those guys, Kim, that if one of those other guys go down, you don't even think about it. You say, Gabe, get in there. And he can play any spot, which is very valuable.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. See you Sunday.
You got it. See ya.
Hey, Dabes, I know it's a week to
Hey,
week
Maddie.
and game to game league in terms of what you're preparing on offense and the defenses that you're going up against, but what do you think this offense can carry into this week's game from their success that they had yesterday?
Again, it's we come into these meetings, and what you have to be is consistent in this league because it can get you pretty quick. A bad performance, if you let it, can weigh you down, and a good performance can get you too high. And I just think that the way we approach things here is you try to remain as consistent as you can, Maddie, and understand that really what you did last week, in terms on the field and how we approach it, doesn't really have a lot to do with this week. There's practices we've had out there that, we went out there on Sunday and didn't do great. There's good practices. It's really sticking to the routine of consistency. What you do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in terms of your study habits, how you game plan, how we meet as a coaching staff, practice, how you take care of your body. Those are all the things. And then ultimately it comes down to executing whatever day you're playing for that particular week. And that's really what we try to focus on each week. You can't get too far ahead of yourself, and you can't get too down if things aren't perfect. I think that's, what we try to do in terms of the leadership group is stay consistent, stay authentic, communicate well. And then, each week you kind of start building back up. Starts on Monday and it goes all the way through. But being consistent and, not getting too down or panicking or this or that. I mean, again, it's a tough league filled with a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches. And I think consistency goes a long way in your approach as a leader, and having good conversations on things we need to work on. And sometimes that's after a loss, sometimes that's after a win. But having trust in the players and the coaches and working together and, trying to do the best job we can for that week.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Sal. How are you?
I'm good. This is funny. This is for you in Warrow, actually, since he asked the question. My son just checked this out of his school library.
Oh, my gosh.
He just
There you
checked it out of the library this week, which is crazy, right? I mean, yeah. So anything dealing with the Bills or Sabres, even mostly Bills, he's all about the library.
That's a great deal.
That's really funny.
There you go, War. You got it.
You got it, Warrow. That was exactly it. Can you give us a little peek behind the curtain on how you operate? Do you typically script plays to start a game? And over the course of your career, how has that evolved, whether you have or haven't, and what that's based on, basically?
Yeah, I always think we collectively do it as a group, offensively. What you've practiced during the week, what looked good, what you think you want to start out with. Are you working on helping with the offensive line, getting the quarterback going? You're kind of putting everything together. Again, just to put let's say 15, and go 1 to 15. I think that's tough to do, because there's just so many different situations that are going to come out in the beginning of the game. Look, the defense got them, they held them to 3 and out. Now you got the ball in the 40. Maybe that's not what you want, or the weather's going a certain way. So I think there's some, openers that you like in terms of just putting them down in an order and just sticking to that. That's not what we subscribe to. Whatever's best for that situation. Again, those situations happen. I mean, maybe the team drove down, they punted on the 50, you're getting at the -1 or whatever it may be. But we have a good idea of plays that we like early on in the game. I think it's important to, to have good communication with the quarterback in that regard too.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Good, bud. How are you?
Good. Sticking off, I know you talked about consistency and it's a week-to-week league, but everyone has bad games, players, coaches, the whole 9 yards. How hard is it to stay consistent, like you talked about, and not overreact to a game and say, well, this play didn't work, this concept didn't work, and abandon it, knowing, like you said, okay, it didn't work against this team, but we're going to have to go back to it. How difficult is that to kind of say, hey, you're going to dance with the one that brought you there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Some of that is learned through experience too. I'd say, 13 years ago or whatever it was when I was first a coordinator, I was probably a lot different than I am now. I think experience helps, maturity helps, and sharing those experiences with your players help too. Again, you're going to have bad games. You're going to have bad calls, bad plays, turnovers, things like that happen. It's easy to have, great energy when you're executing well. How do you get that when you're not? how do you stay positive when things aren't going great or you have a loss? I think that's what leaders have to do is if you believe in your process, if you believe in your methods, look, the results aren't always going to be what you want them to be, but you can always fall back on the things you did or the things you believe in. And again, have some good conversations about, okay, can we change something? It's not a wholesale change. You're just trying to look to get better at the things you need to do. But, to go in and switch a whole bunch of stuff with the players and say, whoa, we got a process. We're committed to it. We have a system. We believe in it. That's, again, 20 years ago or 15 years ago is a lot different than it is nowadays. And that's just the reality of our athletes today and all the things that go along with being an athlete or, in the limelight. You really got to do the best you can of staying focused on the things that are happening inside, being honest and, showing belief that, what you believe in and how you go about doing things is the right way to do it. While also, tweaking some of the process as you go. That's what you need to do as a leader as well. And that's the nature of the business that we're in. The team we're about to play started out 1-4, if I'm not mistaken, just getting going on them. And now have won 4 of the past 5. That they've been in the deep water there. They've fought out of some tough times early on, and to me, that's what makes teams really good. Is how do you handle adversity? How do you handle the tough times? It's easy to, sit there on cloud 9 if you're 6-7 wins in a row, but adversity, builds character if you handle it the right way. I think we got a lot of guys that have faced adversity throughout their careers. We're going to face much more of it probably. You'd like not to during the season, but that's just the way it goes. And how you handle that goes a long way.
Brian, I really appreciate that thoughtful response. If I could just follow up, you talked about
Sure.
20 years and how you've handled it and how it's different than when you first got in here. And you've been to different programs. You've been in college. You've been in different buildings. Was there a moment when it was like, oh, I have to change this, or like, oh, like I can't overreact? Was there a moment, a coach, a time when that started to click, or is it just a gradual process?
Yeah, I think it's a gradual process, and you're continually doing that, Dan. You're doing that all the time. You're trying to be better. You're trying to improve, whether that's an X and O scheme, whether that's leadership, whether it's how to deal with adversity. You're always trying to do that to be as good as you can be for the team. And that's what's the most important thing is how can you improve as an individual to help the team out? I just think that, consistency is a really important factor to it.
I appreciate it.
You got it.
Hey, Brian, hope you're doing well.
Hey, Lena, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
2 questions for you, completely unrelated. First,
Sure.
I guess the running backs fumbling the ball kind of continues, has been an issue throughout the season. How much of, I know it didn't have a huge impact in the result yesterday, but how do you guys kind of get that fixed so it doesn't continue to be an issue?
Yeah, we work on it. We work on it daily with individual drills and drill specific things, not just with the running backs, but all the skill guys. And, ultimately at the end of the day, when they have the ball in their hand, it's their job to make sure that they have it at the end of the play. So we'll keep working on that. I mean, it's something that you work on throughout the season because as you know, those can be, game-changing plays. Our turnovers were later in the game. I know the one we dropped on the toss that we got it back, but the ones we turned over were later in the game, and you saw the result of that. Possession of the ball is critical. We certainly need to keep working on that.
And then I was curious, why do you think play action, especially play action pass, was so effective yesterday? Like, why did that work so well? I mean, Josh put up an insane amount of yards on play action pass specifically.
Yeah, I mean, give the players credit. They went out there and executed. I don't want to make it too simple, but they did a good job of executing stuff that we called, and give those guys the credit for doing that.
Thanks.
You got it.
That's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.